Alrighty, good morning. I want to talk about some summaries that have been made based on pretty intense observation of the global political business sphere over the last 5 years under extreme duress. So I wasn't just kind of doing this as a hobby. I was doing this because I believed that it was posing a gigantic risk to my life, my future, and my children's future. And I would still stand by that. And all of this work, which is now almost 7,000 posts, is continuously exposing those concepts. We have out of control homogenesis of, or attempted homogenesis of our entire culture. And it seems like in almost every region, the tail is wagging the dog. We have all of our politicians, all of our financial institutions, all of our commercial, everything is following these global trends, which are becoming more and more focused and more obvious, because there's no other explanation. There isn't a massive global awakening of very particular individual concepts. This is being top to bottom piped down, and this, if anything, is the exact reason that we have local governments. And when I say local, I mean the Australian federal government. If we weren't going to have an Australian federal government because we were just going to be piped top down, then we never would have established it. We would have stayed in the British Empire. Which, if we're going to do that, then let's do that. Let's go back to there, because in my mind, that is where we're at. But then the problem is within that, local regions were fully autonomous, especially along social lines and along what was able to be prosecuted under law. I was prosecuted under a interpretation of the law under a phenomenon that emerged that is actually it's a direct reversal. And this is where, if you're the feminist, if you've fought for feminism for however many years, I believe I've exposed the inevitable endpoint of feminism, which is to claim the victorious position that you claimed you were being dispossessed by. And that's where I would find myself, in that category, on the back of a global push, which has not yet claimed victory. Why doesn't it claim victory? You've done it. And now where? And now where are we going? And these are the things. It's like the stuff that I see coming from that. I'm going no further down that road. And I think there's a lot of people that feel the same. You shouldn't have been in that category, that feminist category. You shouldn't have been pushing along that only to reverse the tables and subject your men to the same things you supposed your ancestors were being exposed to. Because I can guarantee you that's not the case. It's it's a very complicated set of scenarios. And if we can't speak about things openly, then these simplistic arguments are kind of piped out into every child's cot via the massively unregulated online media systems, which have not come under scrutiny at all. We are being led into a global fish tank And the basic political structure that I assumed was there, that most people assume, is not there at all. And so what are the options? There needs to be new identifiable regions that are allowed to emerge. I will let go of 90% of what is being distributed, material and informational, in the world, because it's not benefiting my local area. It's not benefiting my family at all. So you are not defending the people. You are not looking after the best interests of the people. You are continuing construction on something that is yet to be declared, that is being built. And I refused to take part in it. And I think if everyone was made aware of just how bad this was, I believe they would make the same decision. I don't need 7,000 decisions to make at a supermarket. I didn't demand that, but it's there. I didn't demand 7,000 teenagers playing video games on YouTube to occupy my children. I didn't demand my teachers to be going further and further down extremist ideological views that include child mutilation. I didn't consent, or I didn't demand to have a never-ending series of ailments invisible to me without state-of-the-art technologies. I didn't demand for those to have a cure handed out at gunpoint, potentially the most dangerous precedent ever set in history, that has muddied the future more than any other thing I can think of right now. Because now we never know. So the game's broken. Whatever was happening is no longer happening. But we're left with systems filled with people that broke their oaths and were not doing what they were elected for. They were doing what everyone else was doing. And that's the main point. This is why I find myself alone talking to my phone, because I'm obviously doing what no one else is doing. But that does not mean that it doesn't need to be done. The reason empires of the past continuously fell was because they expanded their reach well beyond their city centres, and they couldn't organise that structure. But these were empires that grew organically. These weren't captured empires that were captured at the peak of their organisation and then kind of lassoed together. We haven't really had that happen before. We probably have, but nowhere near this scale. And this effect, this lassoing together, was done by industry. And there's a couple of industries that did this. And it was media, it was pharmaceutical, it was the medical industrial complex that lassoed traditionally conflicted geographical regions of the world, lassoed them together with terror, by terrorizing them, and then tying them together in some utopian hope for a cure. And this is what we're continuously attempting to be exposed to. Every day I wake up, there's some other global front that seems to be more important than every other issue that's going on in each region is being pushed to the top of the line. This is like when you get entitled young women that think they want to get into a club and they get to the front of the line. This is what's happening globally, with our minds and with our children's minds, on the most frivolous issues that have nothing to do with our security. When I wander around and I do things, I was, in a casino doing all this stuff in Tasmania. I do these things here. I've said things out loud about stuff. It's like there is no security for the things you would imagine there is security for. There is just a status quo where nothing has happened. But I can guarantee you that every one of your worst nightmares could happen tomorrow, and there would be no attempt to prevent such things. We've lost the intercommunicative base that makes individual geographical regions secure against such things. And the way that this has happened is by these things like Uber Eats. When I was a child, we used to get pizzas delivered, and I knew who was delivering the pizzas because he was a member of the community. I knew the shop because it was a part of the community. And now we've been slowly exposed to these key providers of food. There is a slow trajectory or there used to be, to install yourself as a trusted provider of food to a community. Now, even if you're the middleman, even if you're the delivery driver of this food, we've been conditioned to accept that this mass distribution is safe. It's not. Whether it's in a van delivering you a hamburger, or whether it's on the internet delivering your children subversive content hidden in seamless or appearingly harmless content. We have regions that have overcapitalized the global sphere. We have channels, technological channels like YouTube, that have overcapitalized the global sphere. They are predatory financial entities. Now, the levels that this can operate in is staggering. I'm not going to get into exactly how terrifying that concept is. But with these technologies, whole regions, whole populations are able to be shifted and lulled into near sleep status. And this is a wartime tactic. We're seeing right now what Donald Trump is doing with tariffs, declaring from the White House his intentions for global superiority of the United States. And we're assuming this is starting now. This started a long time ago. And they're already in your house. They're already in bed with your children. They're already in your children's mind. They've made you all believe that this system, with these ridiculous politicians putting their signs up on the side of the road, that these are the top of our society. They're not. I never in a million years would have entered politics because I didn't want to. That's the way that most people that are ambitious feel this in these periods, because subconsciously we know that there is nothing that can be done in politics. And so what is happening in politics? Nothing. Except the things that are allowed by this global glut of industry. So based on my observations of this, of my seeing the actual reality of going behind the scenes and checking behind the curtains and doing all this stuff, I can guarantee you, your regions are not safe. which means that no region is safe, which means that the only way to secure a region is the same that it's always been, is to claim it and defend it, and then isolate yourself away from the destructive entity with enough force, with enough focus that you are left alone. This is what's coming in the next 10 years. And this is where we actually do have foundations to install this. But we all need to collectively wake up. And if you don't, if I continue in the back drawer, in the bottom drawer of perception, if I continue to be treated more like an enemy than someone who's observant and actually observing the threats that are coming towards us, then I'll just do it on my own. And it might not be here. And the warnings might stop. And more than likely, if we continue that, they won't just be on your child's TV or on their device or in their mind. They will belong. Your children will belong to these individuals. And that is the actual story of what's going on. If we can't secure ourselves against infiltration at this level, then what are we actually now? Like, we are continuously outside of the framework that was installed because every single thing has changed. And I guess no one's gone and just had a look. The perception is that we can thrust a feminist kind of utopia into the system that we already built. That system was built by men. This continuous assumption that I had piped to me, spoken to me by the Polish corrections officer that I was issued once because I was given a suspended sentence for sharing a photograph of my family and saying how this is a ridiculous precedent nationally to be set. If that had have happened in 1900, we would be at war. But this all just flew by. Nobody noticed. Because the women of this country have been lulled into a false sense of security, and they think that they're actually secure. And they're not. And there's no book on earth that I would swear on that would and say that you aren't. You are being slowly led into a meat grinder. They know exactly what strings to pull, and with men as well. We're exposed to our most highest desires. We've got 24/7 pornography and 24/7 sports and 24/7 action movies and everything. This obviously is the precondition for an invasion. And so I guess I'll send this to the politicians in charge and just inform them again that they are outside the frameworks of politics and they are actually assisting in an invasion. And I will act accordingly, according to what I know the structures to be there for. What I know, if the consensus could be pulled from the Australian people tomorrow, if they could be snapped out of their slumber and asked what exactly they believe their government should be doing, I will fill that role. And I will continue to expose you for doing the exact opposite. And I guess I have faith that the survival instinct will kick in time. And with such ferocity and scale that you will be imprisoned by the exact people that you claim to be governing right now. Because the game's up. This global remote control empire that hijacked all of us is dead.